All right, good afternoon. I am recording. I may be joined by people later, I don't know. But as of right now, it's just me, which is okay. I attached a folder for you to take a look at today that I'm going to use in just a couple minutes. It's got three things, and we'll talk about all of them. All right, but today is day 45, so welcome to day 45. As it says, we're going to go off the beaten path a little bit and discuss Link in a little bit more. All right, good afternoon, Grant. As I just said, we're going off the beaten path a little bit today to discuss Link. Last Thursday, I had my meeting with Evan and Doug from the St. Louis campus that I always have on Thursday mornings, and we got to talking about Link. And he had asked me how much I'd gone over, kind of. We just, like I said, it was just a short little discussion, and I decided, you know what, I should give it a little bit more play, so to speak, than I have. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. We're going to look at and build a simple application together. And it says I will send you additional material. I did. Tomorrow, we're going to start working on our final project. All right. And then either Wednesday or Thursday, I don't know which, we're going to be going over the Sports Pro, chapter 12. Okay. I've only done it through chapter 4. So I'm just going to give you basically what I've got, and we'll go on from there. So you will see it though. All right. Your Chapter 12 written tests, all that written tests and homework, those were due yesterday. And your Sports Pro stuff is due by the beginning of class Wednesday. For some reason, I pushed it off till Thursday. We'll see, but it'll be Wednesday or Thursday. All right. Now, what I sent you at the beginning of class today was a zipped folder, and that zip folder has in it a couple different things. So I've unzipped mine already. There it is. And it has this database. It's called Henry Database. That's got a thing in there called henry.mdf for Microsoft database file and the log file. Now, these are not mine. These are Evan's. So when we were talking about this, he mentioned that he had created this. This is kind of his equivalent, for lack of better verbiage, to what I've done with that sales order database. All right. And if you look here, and I've got it open right there, I'm not going to read any of this to you. But what he has got here is about 23 queries that go and deal with a single table in the database. And then he's got 16 queries that work with multiple tables. All right, I went over them. I did the 23, and I've done the first few of the 4. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. Plus, what it's going to allow us to do for the first time is you're going to see how to build a database or how to build our model classes, but do the database first. All right. So what I'm going to do is come into here as we all and just create a new folder that I'm going to call Henry. Right. I'm not planning on saving this. All right. But there it is. So I'm going to start up a brand new Visual Studio project. And again, I'll just call everything Henry. And as you already saw, it's going to be put into a folder called Henry. All right, we can configure, but we're not doing anything with HTTPS. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to click Create. And the project is here and it's up. All right. Now we're going to do something first that we have not done, I don't believe, in this class. And that is, we typically open up SQL Server Object Explorer. Not a problem. But I'd like you to click View up here. And instead of choosing SQL Server Object Explorer, go up to and choose Server Explorer, if you would, please. All right, you see you get a different interface here, but we want to connect to an existing database. So what I'd like you to do, please, is to right mouse click on your data connections right here, right mouse click, and choose Add Connection. And it should come up and look like this. Now, we may have already looked at something similar to this in the AWD 1100 class. It's the same, yet it's different. And if that confuses you, let me just go over the whole thing with you, all right? If yours does not say Microsoft SQL Server SQL Client, if it's empty or if it says something else, click Change over here because these are the other options that you have, all right? So I'm going to just cancel out of there because I want Microsoft SQL Server SQL Client. All right. So then next it asks, it says, well, what's the server name? All right. And for that, I'm just going to browse. All right. It says, wait for a while. And I'm going to go and look around, etc. Okay. Well, it says, please wait while I retrieve a list of servers. And I can cancel. If it does take too long, we just won't do it. That's okay. But eventually, it actually should fill this thing up. So I'm going to do it a different way. That's okay. All right. I'll just, refreshing, going to do diddly. Let's see. Well, what we want over here, and I don't know why it's not coming up. All right. But what we want to do in here is we want to bring in that Henry database. Now, typically when you click refresh here, all right, I'm going to give it a second and see if it does bring this up. SQL Server Client. Change, refresh. Let me try something here. Okay, I don't know why it did that, but I'm going to, okay, you saw this already. So under connection, I'm going to choose add connection. All right. And it looked like this. Now, it's not good. Ah, Jeff. We want it to say browse here. All right. And if you can't get it to say browse, if for some reason yours looks like mine, where it originally didn't, so we right mouse clicked, we chose add connection, and it said refresh here. All right. If that happens, go to change, and where it says Microsoft SQL Server database file, double click it and click OK. See if it changes it to browse. It should. All right. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get to the database we want. And if for some reason you try this and it doesn't work, then just watch. All right. If I have to, I'll put it there. All right. So I'm going to click browse and I want to find the database. All right. Well, on the desktop, on my desktop, I've got that folder called link 10/30/2023. In there, I've got the Henry database. And in Henry database, I've got henry.mdf. You don't have to bring in the other one, just henry.mdf. So right there. So click on that and click open. Now, again, we may have talked about this. We probably did in the AWD 1100 class, but you'll notice that underneath that, it has log on to the server, use Windows authentication, use SQL Server authentication. By using Windows authentication, which is what we're going to choose, all right, by choosing that, that just says that if you are logged into your Windows account, you've got access to this database. If we wanted even more security on it, we could choose use SQL Server, for which they would need a username and a password. All right, we don't care about that. We're the only ones using this, etc. So really and truly, it doesn't matter. Now, normally when you click test connection here, it succeeds. I'm not going to be surprised if this fails. It succeeded. Okay. If yours fails, if it does fail, click OK, and then it basically should succeed. It may have to do some updating. It just depends. All right. And I don't know what your setup is like. All right. So I'm going to click OK here. All right. And you'll maybe notice that now I should have in here henry.mdf. All right. Now, if I go back and I view again, and I go over to where we usually are, which is our SQL Server Object Explorer. So I'm going back to there and I'm refreshing, and I'm going to look underneath my databases to see if Henry is there. And guess what? It looks like it's not. All right. Even after I refreshed here, it's not in there. Now, I could try the other one. All right. But it's not in there either. Okay. Now, this is what I had to do to get this. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, we'll just go about it in another way. All right. But I had to go and literally do a file, save all, and then quit Visual Studio. Totally quit. And then start Visual Studio back up again. So I'm just going to bring Henry.solution back up. And when I brought it up again, it was in here. Now, if for some reason it's not, then it's not. All right. And it looks like it's not. Now, when I did this before, it was actually in there, but it was under some really god-awful type of path. So it's not even showing right now, which again, of course, isn't a great thing. So if I have to, I'll go at it from here. Now, if you notice here, what is it saying? Well, it's got an X there. All right. If I open this, you'll notice it's got tables in it, an author table, a book table. I'm back in Server Explorer. A book table, a branch table, an inventory table, a publisher table, and a wrote table. And if I look here, you'll notice there's the author information, the book information, the branch information, the inventory information, the publisher information, and the book code information. All right. And if I right mouse click, I'm not going to do this for all of them, but I go to show table data. There it is. So you'll notice that it is here. I do have the, all right. Right now it's funky in the way I've got to access it, but I do have the database here. All right. So I'm just going to continue on then from there. When I tried doing this before and I went over to view and I went over to SQL Server Object Explorer, it was there, but like I said, it was in a real god-awful path. Where are you? Like over here, it was one of these that said Henry, but there it is, right there. Maybe you can see yours too. All right. Now, I tried to come in here and do a rename. Why? Because later when we want to go in and we want to set the path, etc. for this, I don't want all this junk in there. So I wanted to change it to just henry.mdf. All right. And then I'm going to refresh this. And I'm going to look at it again because sometimes it appears like this works. Sometimes like this, it seems to get caught up. And last time when it got caught up like this, when I say caught up, I mean just there, it gave me this. All right. Then I did have to close everything. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to close this again. I'm going to start up Visual Studio again and bring up my Henry project. All right. SQL Server Object Explorer, refresh, take a look. And I'm thinking right here, the reason that it's doing this is because I have a project up. I'm not sure if that's why or not. All right, but I'm going to try to save the name again, or rename it again. And I don't know if it's saved right there with the new name or not. Let me refresh. And I've got a henry.mdf. Okay, that's fine. So it's saved. Now, if you had problems with that, don't worry about it. All right, so what do I want to do here? Well, again, if we go and take a look at our program here, and I'm going to close this for now, but if we go in and we look at our program, let me close that as well, and view, and bring up my properties window, and view, and bring up my object, my solution explorer. There it is. Okay. If you look in models right now, we only have our error view model. All right. We're going to change that right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our app settings.json file. You know this file inside and out, basically. Put a comma here and put in my connection strings here. All right. And then start putting this stuff in. I'm going to just call it Henry context. And again, you know the drill pretty much by now. Let me move this way over. All right, and I've actually got everything to show on there, so let's see. I believe that everything that's in there is correct. All right. All right, so I'm going to take that. Now I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that as well. All right, now normally, we're not going to do this now, but normally we'd go into program.cs and we'd set everything up for our context file. We don't want to do that yet. All right, if we do, we're going to get an error message. But what we're going to see now is if we can take our Henry database. All right, we're going to see if we can take our Henry database. All right, and we gave it a context now. So we're going to see if we can go and do database first. This may work, this may not. All right, go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager Console, but this is not going to be a migration. All right, so let me clear this. This is in your book, the command I'm going to give you. We're going to try a scaffold. Scaffold minus DB context space minus connection space name minus provider. It's got to be a big P, sorry. Provider space Microsoft dot entity framework core dot SQL server space minus output dir for directory models. Now, it may fail because we did not yet add our Microsoft Entity Framework stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that now before I hit enter. So I'm going to go back to Tools, go to NuGet Package Manager, go to Manage NuGet Packages for a solution. In our browse, come in here and browse for Microsoft, and we'll put in Microsoft.entityframeworkcore.tools. And we will put in Microsoft.entityframeworkcore.SQL server. All right, so there the two of them are. They've both now been installed. All right. You know already, be knowing me, that I don't trust it, so I like to come back and check it one more time. They're both there. Good. All right. So now this disappeared, but I'm going to go back to Tools, NuGet Package Manager Console. And again, this is the command. It's on one line, but I'm making it bigger so you can see it. It's on one line, but I'm making it bigger so you can see it. Scaffold minus DB context minus connection. Name equal Henry context. And if it fails now, it's because we haven't created a Henry context file yet, but I don't think we need to. Minus provider, Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SQL server, minus output dir models. There is a space after scaffold DB context. There is a space after connection. There is a space after Henry context. There is a space after provider. There is a space after SQL server. So I'm going to see if it works. Keyword not supported. I must have spelled multiple active result sets wrong. Well, that's on me. Let's double check that. So I'm going to go back to my app settings.json. Multiple, multi-P. Job, Jeff. All right, let's try it again. So I'm going to do another save all. All right, I'm going to clear my package manager console and put the command in again. And hope and pray I didn't spell anything else wrong. Cannot open Henry. The login failed. All right. I don't know if it needs the MDF. I didn't try that. So it may need me to rename Henry.mdf to rename it as Henry, which is stupid, but I'm going to try it anyway. View, SQL Server Object Explorer. There's Henry. I'm going to again try to rename it here and get rid of the .mdf on the end. So it is just Henry. Looks like it took it. We refresh, check it again. Now I do have just Henry in there. All right. So I'm going to run the command again. Well, it says now build succeeded. That's always good news. So I'm going over to models and notice what I have under models now. I've got author.cs, book.cs, branch.cs, error model, oh, that one was there. The Henry context. All right, so it built a context for me. Inventory, publisher, and wrote. And if I bring up, I'm not going to bring up all these, but if I bring up author, what you're going to notice on here is when we did this, one thing it did not do, it put no decorating on here. All right, so there is no decoration on here. And what I mean by that is that we don't have anything in there at all as far as, for example, range checks, required checks, etc. We could add that if we wanted to. There would be no problem doing that. All right, I'm not going to, but we could. All right, this is, like I said, just meant to be, I'd like to say a fun little exercise, but the way it started, it isn't too fun. So the next thing I want to do is I want to bring up this Henry context file and take a look at it. And you'll notice, because we've worked with these files before. All right, we've got, again, there's an empty constructor. There's a constructor with our options. We don't typically have an empty one, but I don't think that would hurt anyway. Then we've got our DB sets. Authors, books, branches, etc. All right, when you look in here, what did it do? It basically added in here the same type of stuff we would normally see when we do a migration. But we didn't do a migration because a migration assumes that you already have your class files. So it is doing the equivalent here of building like that up file that we have when we run the update database. So it's all in here. It's got the different properties. It's got the different everything that's in here. All right. You'll also notice that if you take a look here, that this is in here as a partial class. Now, we talked basically not at all about partial classes. We will look at them as we go on, but what you can do is if you've got a class that you're creating that either has, for lack of better words, either has kind of two different types of logic in it, or it's getting so big, you can take the class and partition it out into partial classes, which means that, you basically come in here and you pretty much give it the same name. All right. And there's a few other things that you have to do. I'm not going to go over them right now. All right. But you can combine different classes together, for lack of better words, into one class. All right. Now, one thing we did not do, if I go back to my program.cs file, if you look in here, whoops, try that again. If you look in here and we go after our build services.add controller with views, we usually add our service in there. Well, we have to manually add it again, but you can't add that you can't add that until you've gone in and you've created the context. All right. You can put it in before that, but you get an error message when you run it. So I'm going to come in here and do our builder dot services. What do we have next? Builder dot services dot add DB context. Again, you've seen all this stuff before. Yeah. Hopefully those errors will go away as we type a little more in here. So add DB context. And then we need our Henry context, and you'll see it pick that up, which is good. All right. And then on the next line, does that? I don't know. Options with a lambda, options dot use S server, and it picked that up, which is good. And again, paren, hit enter, and builder dot configuration dot get connection string. And in there will be our Henry context. And at the end, you look, that's always a good sign. All right. Now, I do want to mention one other thing too, and that is, I mean, we can go back and we can rebuild this again. Sometimes, though, when you run this, you get a message in here that says build started, and then it says build failed. All right. That does not necessarily mean that there is a problem with your database. That means you may have to go back and do a build and do a build solution or a rebuild solution. So I just did a build solution here, and I want to see if it's going to give me any errors. It hasn't finished because it still says build started. So it may take a little bit more time. Don't know how long it would take. Don't want to give it too much more time because I don't want to waste anybody's time here. Well, it looks like it came back here, so I'm going to click on here, see if it gives me any errors. If it comes up, it must have worked. All right, and since we haven't done anything yet, that's pretty much what you'd expect, so that's okay. All right, oh, there it came up. Okay, good. Now, again, not sure exactly. I'm going to right mouse click and choose clear all here, and I'm going to come back again. I don't know if I really need to add a migration in here or not. All right, I did this before and I didn't add one, but I'm going to try to add one right now and just see what happens. So add migration. I'm just going to DB first. Now, don't worry about that yellow stuff that's in there. That's not a big thing, but it looks like it did give me a migration. If I look in here, DB first. So that's in there. All right. And I'm going to clear this and try to do an update database. Well, Says there's already an object named author. Okay, if I want to do that again, then what I'd have to do is literally remove Henry and recreate Henry. All right. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it the way that it is. All right. I think everything is fine. Okay. So with that said, let's take a look at this. All right. Again, I'm not going to read it. Evan created this. This guy owns a bookstore and he wants to run some queries. Okay. So we attached the Henry database. This is the kind of thing I asked him, and he said he actually gives this out first in his when he teaches the AWD1100 class. All right. And has them do these as just regular SQL queries. And then they come back and do these as link queries. All right. So is that a big thing? Well, let's talk about something here first. All right. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go back to the program. Okay. And I'm going to just close this and this and shrink this down. Okay. All right. But the first thing that I'm going to do in here is I'm going to open up. You don't have to do this. You can do this. It's up to you. All right. I'm going to go in and under my, well, let's go to controllers because we've done it this way before. I'm going to open up the home controller. All right. And I'm not going to put a whole heck of a lot in here, to be honest with you. Okay. As always, I'm going to get rid of the logger stuff. I'm going to get rid of the privacy stuff. All right. And in here, I'm just going to return the view. Okay. That's no biggie. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing some routines now. And if you say, I don't understand what you mean, I think you will in a second. All right. We're going to sit there and write, like I said, about, I don't know, 23 different queries right now. We're going to start. Okay. So I'm going to come in here. Oops. And I'm going to start with public iAction result. And I'm just going to call this Q1. It'll be query number 1. All right. I don't know what that's doing. Okay. And nothing in there. And rather than just return view, I'm going to start writing some code now. All right. So again, the idea in here is what we want to do is we want to run queries based on what you see in this. All right. I'm going to do them a little bit out of order. I'll do number 2 first because this is the equivalent of a select star. All right. So we'll do that one first. All right. And if you say I'm totally lost, well, then just kind of watch for a second. Okay. So I'm going to make this Q2. And I don't know what it doesn't like there, but we'll figure out what it is. All right. And I'm going to write this now. So well, it's going to give me an error and we'll fix it in just a moment. Okay. And we're going to fix that in just a second. All right. I'm going to move this over or it's going to run off the screen. All right. The reason that we're getting an error right now, there's two. One, I've got to come in here and return, view, publishers. Okay, that got rid of this error, but it doesn't understand context. Well, I want context to be lowercase, and the reason it doesn't get it is if you remember what we've got to do in here, all right, is right after this, we've got to come in and do a private Henry context that we've been calling context, and we'll make it a get set. All right. Then we need to come in and put in a constructor. All right. And which we've typically been calling CTX. Trying to. And then this says context equals CTX. And if I went too fast, let me move that back up. All right. Now that error is gone from here. Okay. So we came into our controller, we created a context variable, which will allow us to manage database. Then we brought that in via our controller, for lack of better words, kind of like we always do. All right. And then after that, we came down here and we wrote this called Q2. And what is it doing? It should give us a list of publishers that we called publishers by saying context.publishers. So go through the whole table and order it by publisher name and then print it out. And it should return that, return the view. Okay. So we call this thing in here Q2. All right. So what? So I'm going to go down now and I'm going to go into my home folder here in views. We don't need privacy anymore. We got rid of that. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to add in here a new view. Razor view empty, and I'm going to call it Q2. .cshtml. There it is. As you know, it comes up and it shows us garbage. We don't need any of the garbage. All right. So we'll start with an @model, and we're going to have in here a list of type publisher. Not sure why I'm getting that error, and I don't like that, but we'll see in just a second. All right. And then we'll come in here and we will use view bag to set a title. We'll just put query number 2 there. Okay. Doesn't matter really what you put. All righty. And then we're going to get our information. Well, this is going to return, I think it's 28 publishers. So let's put it into a table. Double check. Let's see once. Yeah. List a complete publisher table. Okay. So table class equal table bordered, table striped. We have our T head. You know this because we've done this enough times with our TR. And we've got, whoops, we've got some THs in here, 3 of them, a publisher code, a publisher name, and a publisher city. And of course, you know by now, or you should know, that all of those table headings. All right, no data yet. We're going to put the data in next. And of course, the data goes into a T-body. And in there, as always, we have a for each. And remember that although we used model with a lowercase m up at the top in our using, in here, whenever we want to use it, all right, we use an uppercase M. All right, so we'll have another TR in here and just our table data. Well, we ask for everything. So the first thing will be the code. The next one is the name. And then the last one is the city. All right, we're almost done, but that's it. All right. But we're going to do one more thing. All right, or at least attempt to do one more thing. All right. And well, let's just see. So I'm going to do a file, save all. All right. If we run it right now, well, we're getting an error. So let's start with fixing the error. Viewbag.title. What if I try view data? Like that. Doesn't seem to like that. Shouldn't need double quotes. Nope. Well, I don't want to worry about that line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment it out for right now. I'll look at it during the break. All right. But I can put an H1 in here. Something like that. Now it's going to run, but it's not going to show virtually anything. Okay. But I didn't put a link to it. So notice what I did was I said /home/Q2. And there are my 28 publishers. All right. Kind of big here. I don't need to make it an H1. I'll make it something smaller. All right. But you can see I now have my publisher code. I have my publisher name and I have my publisher city. So I have all the information from the publishers table. This I can get rid of. We don't have privacy anymore. And I can get rid of this down here as well. All right. Now, the only thing I'd like to do is first I'm going to come in and I'm going to make that like an H4. All right. It'll be smaller that way. I think it'll look a little nicer. And then I'm going to go into, Let's see. This is my home index file. I don't really need any of this stuff. See, it took that. I don't know why it didn't take when I tried doing it, so I'm going to copy that, but that's fine. I don't need any of this junk. All right, so I'm just going to change this so when it comes up, it just says something like link practice. Get rid of that paragraph and that, oops, that's fine. All right, so file, save all. The other thing I want to do is I want to go into the layout, my underscore layout under shared. All right. And right now you can see what we have in here. All right. We've got I'm going to change item right here. And I'm going to change it so that, yeah, home controller, but I want it to basically the action to be Q2. And I'm going to put here Q2. All right, there's Q2. And there it is. So I'm just going to keep building along here. Okay. Now, what I want you to get out of this is we're going to write a bunch of link queries. All right. So you might say, fine, I get that, but why are you doing this? It's a waste of our time. Not at all, because we haven't really gone over what exactly is happening when you run these things. I mean, this one is pretty simple. All right. It's saying iterate through the publishers table, order it by publisher name, give me that list of publishers. And since we're sending it to the view, show it on the screen. All right. And like I said, hopefully, at least, hopefully that makes sense. So like I said, after the first run, we just have those 3 fields. All right. All right, let's look at the second one. It says list the book code and the book title for each book. And actually, that's the first one. So we're going to make that and put that into Q1. All right, I'm just going to copy this so I've got it. And right up above it, I'm going to put in Q1, and then we'll write that one. All right. Now, this is going to be working with books. So I'm going to say here var books equal, and we're going to put in all the stuff in just a second. But what I want you to realize is since that's books, that better be books in here as well. All right. Okay, just like we did before, but we're going to say now context dot, and notice it already picks up books. All right. Now, what we want to do is we don't want every field in the books table. All right. What do I mean? If I go back into here and I go back into Henry, all right, and there's book. And if I show the data, notice what we have in here. We've got a book, a title, a publisher code, a type, a price, and its paperback status, which kind of looks like a Boolean field. We don't want all that stuff. What do I mean? What we're told in here is all we want is the book code and the book title, just those 2 fields, these 2. So in other words, we want all of this, but we don't want any of that. Now, what we could do is we could run a query almost identical to the one we just ran, except instead of going through the publishers table, we'd go through the books table. And then in our view, we could choose to only print out these two fields, and that would be okay. But imagine that we had a really huge table that had scores of fields in it, and you only needed a couple. Well, then it's a waste because you're making the server do more work than it actually has to do. All right. So the reason I'm telling you that is we're going to come out here now and we're going to do what's referred to as a projection. All right. And we're going to come in here and say new, and then inside of curly braces here. All right. Let me try that again. I had it right, but I just skipped a step. All right. Context.books dot, we'll do it on the next line, dot select. All right. If you remember the last query we just did, we did not do a select. All right. So we're going to select in here, but we're going to come in here. It's books. So I'll use B. All right. And I'm going to say new. All right. And then inside of here, I'm going to put in curly braces. All right. I'm going to push it over. That's fine. B dot, well, no, looky here. Book code. B dot title. So it recognizes those fields. But what we have told it now is that the only thing that we want to print out is the book's code and the book's title. And that's what we're returning. So again, as I mentioned, we could have decided to show everything. That would have been okay. All right, now that I look at this, we're missing a component, and that is dot to list. Right? So again, I could put that on the new line. It doesn't matter. All right. And then we're going to return our view with books. All right. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to run this. And my guess is that when we run it, it's going to fail. Believe it or not, that's okay. Okay. But let me just, well, I'll tell you what, it's 1:28. We've been going almost an hour. Let's come back at 1:40, and we're going to write a data transfer object, a book DTO. We'll write that as soon as we come back from the break. See you at 1:40. All right. First of all, let's talk about why this. Did one of each, and it works just. So that's the first thing. All right. Then the second thing is when we come in here now for this Q1, what we want is the book code and the book title of each book. So the only thing. No, I don't know if it's called book code or book title. Well, doesn't like something. So let's see each book. Well, again, the first one that we did, which was number 2, show all fields from the publisher table, ran just fine. All right, so let's go back to the second one then. Okay, so here under our home controller, okay, here is Q1. All right, var book, context books. And again, as mentioned, this is a projection. All right, so it's books that we're passing. So I'm going to jump back into here. All right, show the book code and the book title, table, book for each book in model. Let's look in here. It is book code and it is title. Okay. And title. I'm not sure why I'm getting those errors, but it's going to be flushed out in a moment, I think. Title. All right. So it's saying here, publisher does not contain something. So it still is expecting that I'm using, that's why. Okay. There we go. Now, when we run this, it's not going to work. Okay. I put in, in the CS HTML, there's now two links. There's a link for the first query. There's a link for the second query. The second one, as goofy as it sounds, is the one we did first. So that one works just fine. You already saw that. We go to here, we get an error. And as you can see, the error says invalid operation exception. And basically, all right, what it's telling us is, hey, I'm expecting you want everything from books, but you're not asking for everything from books. So for lack of better words, the system is kind of confused right now. So let's see if we can fix that. All right. So I'm going to come into here and under models. All right, I'm going to add a new class. All right, and that new class, we can call it whatever we want, but I'm going to call it book DTO.cs. DTO is just short for data transfer object. All right. Now, all we want to put in here is what we want. In other words, the book code and the title. That's it. So I'm going to come in here and say, because that's book code with a get set, and I'm going to set it equal to null. All right. And again, we also probably could set it to string.empty. Maybe that would be cleaner. I don't know. Maybe that'll go away if we do that. So string.empty. It looks like that went away. And the other field we need is the title, which is also a string. String title, again, we'll say equal string.empty. So now what we have in here is we have written this data transfer object. All right. And why is that a big thing? Well, I'm going to show you that right now. By itself, it doesn't seem like it did really much of anything. So I'm going to do a save all, but I'm going to go back then, and I'm going to go back to my home controller, and now I want to rewrite this. All right. And we're not going to do a lot of rewriting. We still want var books equal context.books dot select. All right. But now what we want in here is we want a new book DTO, and you can see that it's already been picked up by the IntelliSense. Now it's giving us errors. We're going to fix those in a second. All right. But we have this b.book code and we have this b.title. But what we want to set is we want to set book code equal to b.book code, and we want to set title equal to b.title. All right. Now let's see. Title may be null here. I don't know why it would be, but okay. All right. So what we did, because we wanted to do a projection, because we didn't want everything back. Now, you probably noticed when we did the first query, this one, there was no star in it like we had, for example, in MySQL or even in SQL Server when we were doing non-link queries. When you do a select star from publishers, that's what this is. And this one is more like, rather than a select star, all right, it's a select book code slash or comma title from books. All right. So we're doing, like I said, a similar, at least, type of thing in here. All right. So let me save this. I've already gone in and created 1.cs HTML. where I've got everything in there, the book code and the book title. Okay, and I think it said at first, what was it? There were 33 books. Yeah, 33 rows. So if I did it right and we run this now, we should get 33 rows. All right, let me do a file, save all, run this again. When we ran it before, the Q2 worked. That was not a problem. The Q1 did not work. Still doesn't. All right. And we're getting the same exact error, which is not good. But we're going to fix it right now. Let's see. Oh, we wanted a list of books. I thought that was what I wanted in there. Could be just book, but it should be correct. Let's see. See, I've got some notes that Evan gave me, and I'm doing some of it on my own, just kind of going out on my own, and that's probably why I'm screwing up. Title, code, book title, that's correct. That's all correct. It's in there. I'm going to go back, even though it didn't like this, I'm going to make that null. And in here, I'm just going to put in a question mark. Suppose I could put a question mark there too, instead. Try doing that, but I don't, trying to figure out why it's giving me an error right now. And I thought what I did is, when I did this earlier, it was correct. Oh, I know what it is. I'll bet you. Since I changed this, it's not a list of book anymore. It's a list of book DTO. That could be what it is. There it is. So that's the book code and the title for each book. All right. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This isn't what I call like for lack of better words, the sexiest lecture that you're going to see. But I think it's important that you're at least exposed to using LINQ. You've been using it all semester, but with that said, we haven't really ever explained exactly what's going on. All right. So let's look at the next one. And I'll just do these. We'll go till about 2:30 and take another break and then do some more. All right. I'll finish better than 3 today. Okay. So let's go back to here and go back to our home controller. And we've got a Q1 and a Q2. Let's do a Q3. All right. And Q3 says, list the name of each publisher created in Boston. All right. So let's look at those. One thing we could do in front of all these, I guess you could say it would make it cleaner. I don't know. It works without it, so we don't really have to. But I'm not changing anything here, so I could come in here and say an HTTP GET in front of all these. All right. I tried it both with it and without it, and it worked fine either way. That's why I left it off. But I suppose you could say it's being more consistent doing it this way. All right, so this Q1, screwed up, Q2, and this will be Q3. We do want publisher. We do still want a list of publishers like this, and we could put either list of publisher or we can put in var. Either one of those will work if you're expecting a list. Either one is fine. All right. And we want context.publisher. All right. But the problem is here, what we want here, okay, we can still do an order by, that doesn't matter. But what we want to do in here is we need a where clause. All right. So it's the equivalent of saying select star from publishers where city equal Boston. All right. So we've got context.publishers, but now we can put in here a dot where. Now that you know this as well as I do, and that is that the where, I'm going to write it right now, but the where, when you use it in regular SQL, comes last. Here it does not. So we want what? Publisher, so P dot city, P dot city equal Boston. All right, there's only going to be two of them, so we can do an order by. It doesn't matter if we do that or not. All right, really doesn't. Okay. So, I mean, there's, again, and there, I think you know this already, there are multiple different ways that this could be written. Now, when you look in here, what does it say? List the name of each publisher. It doesn't ask for all the publisher information. So we're going to run into the same problem that we ran into before. All right. In other words, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and under models, I'm going to add another class. And that class I will call publisher name DTO. .cs. Be very small because all it's going to have in it is public string question mark publisher name with a get set. That's it. All right. Now, well, probably when I think about it now, we're going to need city too, because the city's got to be equal to Boston. Otherwise, I think we're going to have a problem when we run the query. So let's add city as well. So public string city get set. All right. But those should be the only two that we need in here. All right. So file, save all. All right. Let's close this. And let's close our book DTO as well. We can close query one. We can close the layout file. And let's go back to our home controller here. All right, right here. So what do we have? Our publishers equal context.publishers. All right, select. Okay, but what do we want to do in here? Well, remember, this is giving us everything. We don't want everything. So after the context.publishers, we do want to select in here. In fact, I think we want the select last, now that I think about it, because that's just the way that it works in here. So we're going to have var publishers, all right, equal, all right, and let's see. Let's remove all of this and rewrite it. So var publishers equal context dot publishers dot where publisher P dot city equal Boston, just like we had before. All right. Now we want to say dot select E new publisher name DTO. All right, let me move these over. Otherwise, again, it's going to scroll off the screen. All right, publisher name DTO. Publisher name equal P dot publisher name. Boy, oh boy. All right, again, let me move this over. All right. So we've got our Q3 var publishers equal context dot publishers. All right. You can even move that down if I want to really line stuff up, I guess. All righty. All right, equal context dot publishers dot where P dot city equal Boston. Select P new publisher name DTO, and that's got to be a curly brace. As does that. Then I can end that. All right. Dot to list. Return view publishers. Now let me make this smaller so you can see all of it. Okay, and it's kind of goofy syntax for lack of better words. All right, and it's giving me an error right now. And I think it's saying I'm missing a curly brace here. There we go. All right, so what are we doing? Publishers equal context.publishers. So starting with everything, but do a where the city is equal to Boston, but then do a select. And since we're doing a projection, we need the publisher name DTO, and we want to do this where the publisher name is equal to what's in the database. I believe there's two of these. I think that's what it said. 2 rows. So let's see if that is indeed correct. All right. So let me save this. All right. And as always, there's a couple changes. So I'm going to come in here and I'll just copy here. All right. So I now have, or will have as soon as I rename it, q3.cshtml. Plus I need to come into my layout file and I need to make a link for that too. All right, so this will Q3, as will this. All right. And going back then into our q3.cshtml. This will be a model with which be a list of publisher name DTO. All right. This will be query number 3. And what we're told to get from here is the name of each publisher located in Boston. All right. So all we need is the publisher name. Notice it's giving me an error here because remember in our DTO, we didn't specify code. Now we could put the city too, but all it's going to say is Boston, Boston. So all we want is the publisher name. This is query number 3. And let's run the program. You already saw Q1 work, and so did Q2, and here's Q3. And there's our 2. Now, that's Berkeley and course technology. Of course, if I wanted to be extra sure, so we got Berkeley and course technology. So if I go back in here and I look into my publishers table and I view the data, all right, I can see Boston. There's Berkeley. Boston. There's course technology. And there's no other ones listed. All right. So we now have got 3 of these done. And like I said, I'm just going to continue on in here. All right. Not real exciting stuff, etc. But, hopefully there's something that you can glean out of this. All right. So that's the first 3. So I'm going to go back into my home control. In fact, before I even do this, let's go into the layout here. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Well, that's fine. 9 of them, whatever. All right. So that's done for a while. All righty. And let's go back into the home controller and look at the next one here. So the next one is list the name of each publisher not located in Boston. Well, all right. This literally should take a matter of seconds almost to do. So when I go back and I look in here under Q3, I'm going to copy this right down to Q4. All right. And I believe for the not equal, it's right there with a not equal sign. And I think that's the only thing probably that we have to change. All right. So I need to, again, let's take the one in Q3 and let's copy it and make that Q4. So here we'll say not located in Boston. And everything else should be the same to my knowledge. So this is Q4. So let's save it. If I forgot something, you'll know what I know. There should be 26 because there's 28 publishers and 2 are from Boston. So we just did number 3 where we got the 2, Berkeley Publishing and Course Technology. That's fine. All right, now let's try 4. Okay, and it says that this can't be found, so I didn't let the system know. Let's see. Go back to our layout. Or Q4, well, that isn't the problem. Q43, that could be the problem. All right, file, save all, and let's run it again. And Q4, and there's our publishers who are not in Boston. And if you look on there, Course Technology and Berkeley are not listed in there. All right, but everybody else is. Okay, so that's number 4. And like I said, I'll just keep going for a while here. So next would be Q5. List the name of each publisher. Oh, we just did that. That's 4. List the name of each branch that has at least 9 employees. All right, so each branch that has at least 9 employees. All right. Okay, so let's see. Let's come into here and let's write the query first. So let's list the name of each branch that has at least 9 employees. Okay. There we go. Well, let's see if this works. So this is Q5. And I'm going to call this branches with, I think I can put there. I don't know if I can put a symbol in there, but I'm going to try it like that. Doesn't like that. So 9 plus employees. All right. And this is out of the branches. So it's context dot branches. Okay. All right. I think that's num employees. There we go. Branch, if we go look at it, we've got what? a branch number, a branch name, a branch location, and a branch number of employees. I don't think this is going to work because I think we're going to have to again make a DTO, but let's check. All right. I am going to come in here and I'm going to create another DTO. All right, like that. And I'm going to put in there just the one field. So I'm going to grab it from here to make sure I'm doing it right. Now that's interesting. They made it a decimal. All right. So, there's not a lot of logic in here. And what I mean is, I don't know how you have part of an employee, but we'll put it in there because that's the way it is in the database anyway. So we'll put it in there like that. And you know something? Now that I think of it, what are we being asked here? List the name of each branch that has at least 9 employees. Okay, so we need the branch name. All right, so we better put that in there as well. So let's go back into here. And again, let's look at it on branch. It's branch name. So I'm going to grab that as well. All right, so we've got the branch name and we've got the number of employees. All right, then I'm going to jump back into here. Back into my controller here. And we copy that. So save our branches. Okay, context branches. Where branch B has greater than number of employees. Okay. Dot select B dot take that. So we need another one here. All right, so that's the only thing we want to select is the branch name. All right, so I think that's correct. All right. Unhandled exception. Same thing as before, so let's double check that. That looks good. Looks fine. Inches. Where? This is good. Thanks. It looks right to me. Oh, and I'm looking here, and on each one of these, I put stiped and not striped, and that's why I'm not getting the striping on my tables. Let's fix those. I'm gonna run this again and see what that error is. See if I do get the striping now, at least. 1, still isn't showing stripe. 2, neither is that. 3, neither is that. 4, neither is that. And 5. Item passed. Okay, it's right in here. And it says what I'm passing to it is of type string, and it's expecting it to be of type DTO. So I don't know. Do you see anything that looks wrong to you in here?
No, not mine. Looks the same.
You getting the same error, or does yours run?
No, mine's running actually.
Ah,
But
then
my,
you have this. You have the same code that I have right here.
yes, I just have table in the class. In line 10, I have table. I think that might be the formatting, but
What's
I
that
don't.
here?
Yes, I have table before table bordered.
What am I missing? You got table here, class equal table bordered, table striped.
And just table within class.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you're right. That should actually be in front of all of these. That's why I'm not getting the striping.
The
All right.
rest of this code, though, mine looks the same.
All righty. I don't think, though, that that would give me the error that I'm getting, to be honest with you. So I think the problem has to be someplace else. So you said that's the same. So first of all, let me run it just to be sure. Let me try a couple of the other ones, see if I am getting the striping now. Yay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Well, I'm glad yours works, but I'd like to have you help me if you would. Is this what you have up here?
Yes. Yeah,
All
all
right.
mine looks the same.
All right. Then let's go back to the home controller. Do you have the same query that I have here?
Oh, my select is different. It's
Okay, what
B
I was going to
lambda.
say, did you use a different thing than B?
No, I used B, but then I had new branch num employees DTO
Ah, yes, yes.
and then the object.
All right. So in other words, you did it like we did
Just like
this one.
that one. Yes.
Yeah, grab that. That makes sense. So new. Let's clean this up.
Oh, I think it's just branch num employees DTO.
You're right. Looks better. Are those the ones that you got when you ran it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, are you getting anything out of this? Does this make sense, what we're doing?
Yeah, definitely finding this helpful. It's definitely something that I feel like I don't have enough practice in. When
Yeah.
I'm
And I mean, we did, you may or may not remember, if you go back and look, I think you had me for the C# class. We did have a day where we did just write link queries, but they
yes,
weren't link queries like these. All right. They were this, I believe this is called link to entities. All right. And that's not what we were writing. All right. Now I'm looking in here because, of course, I had the whole darn thing. And just a second here. Someplace in here I had made a key, but for some reason with on my key, I've only got the first 5. So let me look. Yeah, that's what I was working off of. It's the same thing. Hmm. Well, rather than making a fool out of myself, which is probably what I'd do, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to see if I can find my key. And if I find the key, what I'll do is I'll do the rest of the ones that I have completed, and I'll put that out there as a link repository. Hopefully you consider that to be fair enough. All right. Now, one thing I said this weekend was that I was going to give you a part 1 of the requirements for the final project. No, I didn't write it, but what I want you to think about, and I mentioned this before, what I'm going to do starting tomorrow is we're going to start on our final project. Now, when I do this, I'm going to be sloppy programmer on purpose. What I mean is I'm going to put everything in my models folder. So in other words, if I have any DTOs, they're going to go right in the models folder. If I have any repositories, they're going to go right in the models folder. I don't care right now about this being pretty. But what I want you to start to think about, you meaning everybody in this class, is if you're making a little e-commerce site, what do you want to sell? And what I'm going to ask is that you come up with 3 possible things that you want to sell. Now, why is that even important? Well, if you look in here, I'm working on it right now, but as an example, for the stuff that we work on, and you can see I've just got a bunch of junk in here. But when we get to our www root and we have images, all right, for instance, I've got, oh, where did it go? Oh, I didn't move them in yet. But I've got baseballs, and I've got baseballs both, um, they're right here. Where is the one called images? There it is. All right, so I've got baseballs, and they're nice and big. All right. So I've got some of those, as you can see, and I've also got thumbnails. which are the same thing, but as you'd guess, they're just smaller. All right. And the idea is when we go and we present, for example, all of our baseballs, all right, then all four of them will show and they'll show using the thumbnails. But when you click on a baseball, it'll show you the bigger picture, so to speak. All right. Very similar to the kinds of stuff that we've done before. But what we went over before, but we really haven't implemented it very much, is we're going to add sessions and cookies into this. All right. And we did do that, yes, a little bit in that NFL thing. And you probably a little bit of it also in your sports pro. But what we want to do is basically when somebody goes and orders something, we want to be able to tell them how much their order is. We want to let them add items to an existing order, remove items from an existing order, clear all your orders, etc. We want all the totaling to be done. All right. And I mean, hopefully, this is going to be something that's going to be good and that you are going to want to put into your electronic portfolio. So, what I'd like all of you to think about doing is think about what it is you want to sell, because I'm going to get you to a certain point on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, now make this yours. In other words, your homepage selling your product, etc. All right. And I'm going to ask that you also set it up more the way we've been doing things in the book. In other words, if you've got repositories, you'll have a repositories folder. All right. If you have data transfer objects, you'll have a DTOs folder, etc. And I want you to set it up like that. Plus, I'm going to want you to implement paging. So in other words, if you've got X number of items per page and you're over that you will add the paging. I want this thing to look really professional. Now we're only on day 45, which means after today, we've got 35 days. We're going to start on this tomorrow. All right. But on Wednesday and on Thursday, I am planning on finishing up through chapter 12 on the sports pro stuff. So we'll start on it tomorrow. I don't know how long we'll go. All right. But I know where I want us to get to, and hopefully everything will work out just fine with that. And then, like I said, Wednesday and Thursday, we will work on bringing the sports pro up to speed, so to speak. I've had a couple people in the class who have emailed me and said, hey, I'm really having problems with a lot of the sports pro stuff. Maybe they got it to work through chapter 10 or whatever. All right. I want to finish that. It is important that you do have a running project in here. Now, once we get done with that and you've got it through chapter 12, then next week, we're going to keep working on this project until we basically have it where we got version 1 pretty much completed. All right. Let's suppose that takes us all week. That's totally fine. All right. Then the following week, we're going to go and spend one class period on chapter 13, which is on testing. You're not going to get any homework or anything. All right. I want you to at least be able to think about how you would test your project using testing. Then the next week is that, remember, I'm off that week. That's the week of Thanksgiving. So the week that we come back, then we would go over chapter, whatever that is, 14, I think it is, which is on tag helpers. No, that's 15. That's tag helpers. And I'm going to show you how you can make your own custom tag helper. Put that into your project. Then the next week is when the magic happens. And what I mean is we're going to come in and we're going to make our admin area and we're going to have it set up so that the user has to log in before she or he is able to actually go in and buy something, and that they need to have a role of administrator, all right, in order to be able to actually update anything that we have in the database. All right. Then finally, chapter 17, which is a short chapter, but it shows you how to take these and you take your project and put it out to Azure. And my hope is that by that time, people will be able to take both their Sports Pro project and put it out to Azure and the one that they're working on. All right. And that's really all I had. But Grant, I wanted to ask you, did you understand my email back to you about your resume?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate the feedback.
No, and it's totally fine. But like I said in there, it's funny because I was talking to my wife about it later, and I said, and you know this, I know, but for anybody in the class, if you want me, especially those of you who are going to graduate in December, if you have a copy of your resume and you want to send it to me, I'll be happy to look at it and make comments on it. But the bottom line is this, and I know after I say this, you'll all go like, duh, but it's your resume. I'm not at all offended. I had a student who graduated last May, and he, his resume needed some work. And I redid it, and so did Evan. All right. And he incorporated one or two of my changes and one or two of Evan's changes. And I'd say it went from, I'm not even going to give it numbers or anything because I'm not trying to be derogatory, but it still needed work. But what I'm saying is, if I make suggestions and you implement absolutely none of them, it's okay. I probably won't know it anyway. And for everybody is, everybody who's graduating in December, all right, if you want, feel free to use me as a reference. In fact, if you remind me of this, I got to look online and see where I have them. But I've got kind of a template for a letter of recommendation that I write for students. And I'll be happy to provide that and give you, it'd be an electronic copy, but if you even want hard copies, I can get those to you. I need an address. Some people don't like to provide me that kind of stuff, which is okay. All right. So for tomorrow, start thinking about what you would like to sell as a product. All right. And I'll leave it right there. Okay. With that said, then I'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.